Capricorn, courage, leading to the power of redemption. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to this month's virtue practice. I'm sure most of you will be able to guess which of the saints is coming with courage and the power of redemption. Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc is, in some respects, quite a modern saint compared to others that we have spoken about. But one of the things that really, I think, appeals to me about her is that she's a saint that had visitations by saints. So she had a connection to the saints herself, and she, a devoted young woman, but she also had other visitations, as it were. She had a connection with what she felt was the Archangel Michael and angels that guided her. And I think one of the in most aspects of her connections to the saints and to the angelic realm was the sense of being guided or called to do something in the world. And part of her story was that when the visitations actually occurred, she wished they would take her with them, but that wasn't why they came to her. It was actually about asking her to do something in the world, which is really a part of what we might talk about today. That there are times where we do feel this calling or this sense that we're being guided towards things in our lives, and that actually it's something beyond our common consciousness or beyond what we would normally see as determining factors for why we might do something. I know for myself, that has happened many times in life. And it really feels as though there's a real closeness to the mystery when that's happening. And we've spoken about this in other cases. Andrew, are you wanting to speak about this today?
Well, I think in myself, pretty much from a very early age, and I can't really explain why, but I was um, always led from within and through some pretty dodgy circumstances. My dad died when I was 6. Um, my mother married again when I was 7, and when I was 8, I was shipped off to boarding school. So it was a pretty turbulent time. Um, Now, I didn't enjoy that school. It was pretty much like a prison camp. And 8 years old is pretty young. Um, Now, I had two choices. I allowed myself to surrender to that situation, um, or I followed the overwhelming push from within, which demanded uh, I escape. So at uh, age 9, I had the English police force looking for me because I decided that this was not for me. and um, I was discovered about 20 kilometers away in a farmer's field, brought back to school and beaten by the headmaster for my infraction. Um, but that's just one instance. Um, the most important one, I think, for me was now the interesting coincidence was that that's when I started going to, say, church on a weekly basis because we all went as part of the school. But something happened to me which I can't describe, uh, but to say that it was an otherworldly type of experience. But since that moment, um, then my confidence in my inner light or my inner voice grew quite rapidly. And that's what I've followed. That still small voice that told me I could play guitar when I hadn't even touched one, that just has guided me every step of the way, even when the way seemed um, impenetrable. And even when the guidance coming seemed ridiculous.
Mm.
But so I feel that I can really relate with Joan of Arc, who was like many of the saints, just so brave because it's always against odds, and it's generally against the political structure of the day, whether it was the church itself or um, the kings and queens. But um, one thing is common in as a thread through all their lives is this absolute confidence in their inner voice or their inner guide. And I think that's what comes through all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we see that with um, so many of the saints that we've spoken about already, their willingness to follow these otherworldly pictures and from another realm, whether it be presented in the dove of Coronag or the voice, but it's as though something the willingness to follow what is guiding our lives. And in many ways, I think what you're describing is true for a lot of us is that inner voice, that inner light, perhaps is more in us now. I would say, I don't want to use the word commonly, but more available, accessible um, to the many. And I think that's partly to do with those that have walked the path before us. And that's the bravery in a way, that is the courage that you're walking a path that's not so well trodden with the idea that you're treading it down more and more. So it becomes a well trodden path. And so these saints that have all had a kind of courage to follow have allowed us in a way to be more commonly, and when I use that word, I mean, it's just available to the many. And I think that, that grows in our development. And certainly for myself, I'd say that although the relationship to the inner light or voice was always there, it has certainly evolved. It's not remained the same.
Does it does it evolve, or do we become more familiar with it and our relationship to it grows?
Or the layers that block it have been removed. It's hard to know that, isn't it? Maybe the clouds that have blocked that sun have just parted through the years. Or,
Mm,
or yeah, so it's hard to, I can't really say that in a sense, but what I do know that it's stronger and more, and I wouldn't say all the time and every day, but when it when it's there, when it's a necessity, it's stronger than ever before. Um, and of course, it's hard in a way when it's not there because you're kind of used to, in a way, that companion of an intuition or a capacity that um, is with you, leading you into that future. And then, so when it's not there, it feels even stranger today than it used to in the past. And I think that is something I'm sure other people have experienced, that there are times when you feel that, for some reason, it's not as available as it once was. And that's where we learn this idea of steadfastness, that we stay steadfast to what we saw, what we were given, until something else becomes clear. Um, and yeah, I think Joan is quite an extraordinary individual. Partly, she was so young as well. And I was going to
yeah,
ask
she
you,
was.
how old were you when you were in the church when you had that experience?
I was like 9 or 10.
Right. Yeah, I remember this age as well, where I realized there could be a dialogue in a way between myself and the spiritual world. And I used to wait till everyone, it rained and everyone went in from the street. No one was playing, and I would go out to be alone, to be in conversation. And it it was around that age. And I think that turning point, that time where in a certain sense, there's an awakening the child's soul to the light and the dark. Um, we begin to identify where the light is in us, and also, in a way, where the forces of distraction are in us too.
It's not necessarily that, you know, you can, as we're talking, and it sounds very nice that there's an inner light that we can listen to and be guided to, but quite often it guides you right into the shed, you know. It's not necessarily, and you wonder, what am I doing? Um, and it's only later that you know that movement becomes understandable, why that happened, or it might not even become understandable. And I think that's the whole thing about the mystery is it, it's not like you get to solve it. It just gets deeper, you
Absolutely.
know. And however, it's kind of like when you're in, it gets deeper and there's dark, like you're at one point you were holding, it's dark, but you were holding something to keep yourself not from falling over. And eventually, like you can't feel that anymore, but you must go forwards, and that's what it must have felt like for Joan, especially. I mean, imagine being that young and um, being compelled um, from the inner light to do the things she did, say the things she did, come up against the church itself that, you know, and I think as well, one of the things I look at that, unless the church has vilified you, you're probably not worth a great amount as a saint, really, because, of course, they accept you when you're harmless once you're dead and gone. But, you know, that's the strength of the inner calling because that's the life connection you have to the divine that is moving you. Not all the structure on the outside, the politics, the structure. It's that's what aliveness and being in touch with the divine is. And quite often that will get you into a lot of trouble,
That's right. And
or
I
I
think
call it beautiful trouble.
well, I think it's interesting that we've got this courage leading to the power of redemption because some often the saints were had a willingness to bring redemption to the church or what had fallen away from a more truly divine or loving uh, intention. And so, courage is also required. It's interesting that they're connected in this virtue practice. That something is transformed, redeemed through the courage, and perhaps that's why we have to go into the trouble because the trouble is what needs redeeming.
Well, perhaps it's like, the trouble is the fire, and we're the iron, and the courage is the hammer, and that's how the metal is made. And um, and that gives you could say the armor of God is um, cast, is made, is hammered through your steadfastness, dedication, and willingness to have the courage to move towards something that is not particularly, it's a guiding light. It's not a solid thing. And therefore that you need courage to do that. And um, but the very act of following it in a way is your protection.
Mm, interesting. I had this thought about, particularly about Joan of Arc, because there was a few prophecies, one of them from Merlin that said a young maiden carrying a banner will free France. And so, given that those prophecies came earlier and before, perhaps, and from my understanding, this is possible, she's offered from the spiritual world the task. The courage to say yes to if she said no, it may have been offered to another maid to carry it. Did it have to be her? Did she also have to meet something and say yes to it? If a task needs to be done, if it's clearly has to come through her hands, someone has to fulfill it. If you chose not to pick up that guitar, who would have picked up that guitar instead if it's needed? And
Well,
I just found that a thought. What was you going to say?
well, 1,001 other people have picked up the guitar,
True,
but
not everyone's
they
free
they've
from
picked it up and they've picked it up in their way. Um,
exactly.
Actually, the interesting thing is about my music, even though because I'm because I was in a sense called to do music, and I had no clue about music, and I still don't. Um, but when I listen to my songs, they're all about God mostly. Couple of girls in there, but over the years, if I look at my body of work, which are 16 albums, it's all about this yearning and moving towards what I could describe as home, which is the inner world. And so your question about Joan, if she said no, I don't think you can say no.
I'd say you could
I
say no.
think I don't think you would be picked, or if because in the saying yes, you're creating something else within is being created rather, and I guess I don't know. Maybe it's possible, like the call goes out and only one answers, but then if you thinking of Merlin and the power of prophecy, so prophecy must know, doesn't know time, so because and therefore it's already seen.
That's right.
So it must be a chosen, the chosen one.
Well, perhaps I'm going to leave that in the air because I like the idea of
Well, I
freedom.
don't know. Yeah, it's, let's call it a mystery.
And
Another one.
today you're going to bring in another song, which brings another element when you're singing than the instrumentals. But I think this is a very powerful song and makes so much sense to this conversation. And yeah, it's called, yeah, go ahead, introduce
Beautiful Trouble.
it. Beautiful Trouble. And this is not about a girl.
No, it's not.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Beautiful trouble just called my name. Beautiful trouble, just lit the flame, just lit the flame. Beautiful trouble slaked my thirst. Beautiful trouble, gonna burst her banks and overflow, carry away this desperado. Rain over me, rain over me. Beautiful
that song go, attempt to empty into just the inner activity, and then focus your attention on the virtue you're working with, building the quality of that virtue, feeling, experiencing that virtue, and then allowing that to center in your heart. That quality then becomes a warm streaming that streams into your hands, into your feet, and up towards your head, and then back to your heart. Rest there.